Hey, welcome everyone to our first Bleacher Report bracket of the 2023-24 March Madness tournament. It'll be played this year in Glendale, Arizona, greater Phoenix area. Last time that we were there was 2017, if I'm not mistaken, when North Carolina knocked off Gonzaga in that Final Four. So here's what we're going to do, beginning with this bracket. We're going to do this probably monthly. I don't have the exact schedule. And then we'll get into a weekly bracket release on our March Madness platforms here on Bleacher Report. And we're going to discuss it all the way up, of course, to Selection Sunday when the real one comes out. So let's go through some of the way we did this before we unveil the teams that didn't make it. And then we're going to go region by region. Okay. First off, this is a snapshot in time. We know that. We are doing this here on November 30th, the last day of this month, which meant late last night, the 29th, we waited to make sure that we included the games that were really important in that ACC-SEC challenge, the Arkansas win over Duke, which was phenomenal to watch. Wasn't there, obviously, in Bud Walton, but a great watch with Arkansas winning that game. Tremont Mack not able to play, got hurt down in Atlantis. Then you had Auburn looking really strong in their win over Virginia Tech. North Carolina going over 100 against a Tennessee team that usually doesn't do that. Dalton Connect ended up going, I think, for 37. So a lot of significant results on Wednesday night that we wanted to make sure we included in this first bracket. So what does that mean? That means that actually there was a result late last night that knocked the team out of our bracket into the first four out. And that team, we're going to show that to you right now, was Florida State. Florida State had a lead late against Georgia, ended up not winning that game. And so we did a late switch that you'll see when we get to that bracket where we had Ole Miss, which is undefeated with Chris Beard. Just got Musa Cisse eligible, transfer from Memphis. He's been all over the place. He'll be a big help for the Bulldogs. So Florida State goes from in to out. And you see the first four out of Florida State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Xavier. All have had some decent wins, but nothing consistent as of yet. And with Florida State, look, it was a situation where if they'd won that game, they would have been that last team in. They lose, so Ole Miss is in. Now, there's four others that are sort of the next grouping that still have a lot of work to do to get into our bracket, and they got plenty of time to do so. If we can look at that, that's sort of that next four out. Before we go and look, I think, the Midwest. So you got Colorado, which lost to Colorado State in a big rivalry game last night. Isaiah Stevens, player you better remember because he's a fantastic talent. And he certainly will be one of the best point guards in the country. So Colorado State beats Colorado, they're out. Nevada, undefeated, but they need some significant wins. They don't have that yet. New Mexico, playing really well under Richard Pitino. Again, need some big wins. They lost to St. Mary's earlier. St. Mary's not playing. St. Mary's isn't even in our grouping here. Utah, also still inconsistent. Got a big game on November 30th tonight as I'm taping this against Hawaii, which you will see is our AQ out of the Big West. Hawaii undefeated on the road right now, playing at Utah, actually in Salt Lake City where the Jazz play, so technically a neutral court. All right, so now those are the 8 that were sort of on the outside looking in. Let's look at the Midwest bracket first. Okay, so the Midwest is where we're going to start. Midwest bracket, as we unveil here, and I'm just going to do a little house cleaning here so I can see it for you there on my own screen. All right, so in the Midwest region, Purdue is the 1 seed. That's a no-brainer. They're going to be the 1 overall. They have the best wins over anyone right now in the country with what they did in the Maui Invitational. 2 seed Baylor, the 3 North Carolina that went over Tennessee. Villanova won Atlantis, lost last night, being Wednesday night to St. Joseph's. So they're on that 4 line. Doesn't knock them, doesn't cancel out what they did in Atlantis, but it probably prevents them from moving up to a 3. Clemson wins at Alabama, solid 5. They should be ranked. I had them ranked at 14 in our Power 36. They were not in the AP Top 25. So Clemson should be there. Colorado State now a 6 seed after that win over Colorado. Michigan State has played a good schedule, haven't won the games though. You see Auburn with that win last night over Virginia Tech. And then you've got a 16 game, and then we see as we go down the list here, probably the most significant thing is that TCU is an 11, UCLA a 10. I wrestled with UCLA because UCLA does not have any good wins yet at all. Princeton is a 9 in an 8-9 matchup with Auburn. Princeton undefeated. They're off to a great start despite losing, you could argue, the 3 best players off the Sweet 16 team. Indiana State, after Bradley lost on Wednesday night, they slide in as the AQ out of the Missouri Valley. NIU is the automatic qualifier right now out of the MAC. And this is going to change a lot. But think about, let's just pause for a minute here. Liberty, by the way, undefeated in a 5-12 game. That would be a really dicey 5-12 game for Clemson if that were to occur. So as I look at these, as we just see them here, if you had a Purdue-Baylor matchup in an Elite Eight, hypothetically, that would be interesting because, again, kind of like Marquette, Baylor's like Marquette. Now, Purdue was able to beat Marquette down on that last possession. That's the kind of team that could give Purdue some problems. That would be a tough 2 seed for Purdue if that happens. I love the way this stacks up. By the way, really good point guards, in this bracket. Who knows if that'll occur? All right. So now let's go to the South bracket. And you can see there on your screen the way the brackets, Midwest and South, are on one side. All right. So UConn would be the 1. And I'll explain this in a minute here as to where we're going to go in the East. The East is, by the way, in Boston. And the South is in Dallas. So you've got UConn as the 1 seed because Marquette right now has better wins than UConn. Won at Illinois, got to the final in Maui. Now UConn did beat Indiana, Texas, but they're not as good as Marquette's wins right now. UConn is at Kansas on Friday night. That could flip them if they were to win that kind of true road game. So we'll see. Here you have UConn, Kansas in a 1-2 setup, which they're allowed to do, even though it would be a potential repeat of a game earlier in the season. It's not ideal, but it could happen. From a game on December 1st happening potentially in an Elite Eight the last couple days of March. So that's not uncommon to happen. And you can't project to an Elite Eight. I just want to make that clear for everyone out there. The committee, when they put together these brackets, they're more concerned about repeat matchups in the first round. You just can't say, oh, here's an Elite Eight matchup. They played way back in November, December. We don't want that to happen. It almost never happens that the 1-2s are always together. So you cannot project like that. Here you see Tennessee is a 3. That would be a repeat potentially if they were to meet because Kansas and Tennessee played in Maui on that early game, and Tennessee didn't have it. Kansas did. Kansas played very well. Gonzaga is a 4. It's funny. You got 2, 3, 4 all were in Honolulu in the Maui Invitational. Alabama sliding to that 5 after losing at home to Clemson. Creighton down to a 6 after losing to Colorado State. Wisconsin, I would say, up to a 7 after winning the tournament in Fort Myers. Ohio State up to an 8 after the way they played in beating Alabama on a neutral court, and then Santa Clara. So, and then some of these matchups, an Alabama Grand Canyon would be a good matchup. You see there Ole Miss Iowa State. Ole Miss Iowa State is a game in Dayton. Ole Miss now took that place of Florida State as one of those last in. TJ Otzelberger always just puts himself right in the mix. No surprise that he's always right there. 7-10, Wisconsin USC. USC has struggled a little bit of late. They've not been 100% healthy. That's been a problem. That would be a future Big Ten matchup. Ohio State and Mississippi State, an 8-9 game. Be a tremendous 8-9. Mississippi State coming off a loss. They still don't have Tolu Smith. They'll be obviously a team to watch going forward. So that would be an interesting bracket, I think, for sure. Think about that in a 1, 2, 3, 4. If you had UConn, Kansas, Tennessee, Gonzaga, even Creighton in that list. And by the way, Ohio State, watch out for them. I think they're going to be really a team to watch going forward. Bruce Thornton is an all Big Ten player right now. Let's take a couple of questions, and then we're going to go to the other side of the bracket. Carolina is only going to get better as the season progresses, says James Kresge. I totally agree with you on that. I think Carolina has a legit shot to be a Final Four after not making it this past season. So it's kind of crazy. National title game, not making it, and they could get back to the Final Four. Montoya, I could see Villanova 6-7 seed after losing. I agree. Auburn at 8 is crazy. Look, that John Sims, Auburn at 8 right now, that's based on their resume. They're certainly playing better than an 8, but you have to look at who they've played to get to that point. Even though UMass Lowell played a close game with Stonehill, they are a huge sleeper. I agree with you, Ian. Lowell or Vermont, I think it's going to be one of those two. Vermont played well early in the tournament down in South Carolina and Myrtle Beach. But Lowell right now, I thought, has played better. And so it was a tough call which one I was going to give the AQ at this moment. Obviously, it's one bid out of the American East. Jive Turkey says Zags might be too high. It's funny you say that because I debated about where to put the Zags. And, their win over UCLA, I'm not sure how UCLA is. So they played a good schedule. So the resume is good in terms of who they played. Ryan Nemar, the transfer from Creighton, he's got to get better. He absolutely has to be better going forward. We'll see what happens there. Last question was, am I still on the Rutgers bus? Yes, but Rutgers needs to play well coming up. They got a big game at home against Illinois. They don't have basically haven't played anyone outside of Princeton yet. So they've won the games they're supposed to. They've got the Illinois game, obviously other Big Ten games, and the Mississippi State and Seton Hall games are the other two non-conference games to watch. All right, let's go to the other side of the bracket, to the west the east is next. East part of the bracket on my right side, okay? So the lower right. This is the east. So we've got Marquette as the 1 seed in the east. Remember, that is in Boston. Listen, UConn has plenty of time, because I can already anticipate this question. UConn has plenty of time to be the 1 seed in Boston. I do think UConn will be in Brooklyn for the first couple rounds, which will be a tremendous home court for the Huskies. So I think this could flip where Marquette and UConn flip, assuming they are both 1s. I could totally see that. So don't fret there. 2, Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky now is a 2 after they played so well against Miami. And I think Kentucky's going to be in that, I don't think, we'll see. I don't think they'll be a 1, but I think they could definitely be a 2. Duke a 3. Again, Duke needs, outside of the win over Michigan State, they're going to have other chances. They got a game against Baylor coming up. But they're going to need to rack up some quality wins to hold that 3. Texas is a 4. That's a little shaky. Miami's a 5, a little shaky. Illinois is a 6, a little shaky. 7, Oklahoma, undefeated, playing well. Arkansas now an 8. They could move up once they get healthy with that win over Duke. Remember, they lost to Greensboro at home. And Greensboro's in our bracket. And then didn't play well in Atlantis. Colgate, you see there, out of the Patriot. UNC Greensboro right there, 4-13, dangerous game for Texas. Greensboro's already won at Arkansas. Santa Clara, Oregon is my other game in Dayton. We saw Iowa State, Ole Miss. Santa Clara, not St. Mary's. Santa Clara right now is the second best team in the WCC behind Gonzaga. Herb Sendek has had NBA players come through there, Brandon Ponzimski. He's had Jalen Williams. And look at this. The Broncos playing really well early. Got to that final down in Fort Myers. Down in, not Fort Myers, but in Florida. They lost to Ohio State. And against Oregon, that will be an interesting game if that were to happen. Oregon, a little shaky. They need some wins. Cincinnati. No one's talking about Wes Miller. Wes Miller is doing a great job with the Bearcats right now. He's got all his group in there. And we'll see what happens here if they can hold that once they get into the Big 12. But that'd be an interesting 6-11 game. Providence, 7-10. I always feel like the Friars are in that 8-9-10 range, 8-9 10 11. Kim English doing a really good job. Friars had that great win over Wisconsin. 8-9 game, Arkansas, Northwestern. Northwestern has the big game at home against Purdue. I'll be there on Friday night for the Big Ten Network. Northwestern, best win so far is over Dayton at home. So if this were to occur, if Northwestern makes it, this would be the first time ever that Northwestern would be in back-to-back NCAA tournaments and be the third ever. So Boo Buie is trying to lead the Wildcats to a historic moment for Evanston. All right, before we get to the last grouping, let's take a couple more questions. UK from Ant Farm, Kentucky could be 1 seed. They look dangerous for Miami. I agree. I shouldn't dismiss them as a 1. They have a lot of potential to still happen. They're going to play North Carolina, by the way, in Atlanta. So that'd be a great game to see where they are. Miami's been puzzling. Says Mr. Likely, I like them, but they could be as high as 4 or low as a 7. I agree. They could win the ACC or finish 5th. Moneyman says, do I think Tyler Cole and Cam Jones are the best backcourt duo right now? They're definitely in the top 3. I would say they're because throw in Sean Jones, who played really well down in Honolulu. Corey says, is this year's Arizona team finally make it past the Elite 8? They're playing like they're a Final Four team, without question. You're going to see them momentarily here. Chad Turkey says again, Marquette is legit. Duke is too high on this one. Duke might not be the best team in their state. That's true. We'll see. Got 2 chances against Carolina. They're better than Wake, and they're better than NC State. All right. Last quadrant, the West. We just teased them. Of course, the number 1 team in the West. And the best team in the West right now is Arizona. Tommy Lloyd doing a great job with this roster. I'm just so impressed with him, his ability to restock it. Caleb Love getting the win at Duke, beating Michigan State in Palm Desert. What's interesting here is you've got a lot of redemption stories with what occurred, with Arizona losing in that first round to Princeton. And you've got a situation where Purdue loses in the first round of Fairleigh Dickinson. That's a bit of a redemption. Marquette lost, I think, in the second round of Michigan State. And so that was significant. Marquette's trying to come back afterward. All these ones are certainly looking like that after disappointing marches. Kentucky as a 2. So Houston now in the 2 here. I think that, by the way, that's going to be the theme in this March Madness, sort of the redemption storyline. Houston as a 2. I think the Cougars are, again, one of the most consistent programs in the country. This would be a dangerous 2 for Arizona, just the way they defend. Florida Atlantic, now up to a 3, lose to Bryant, go down to Florida, and win that tournament. They beat, A&M, a really good game, good A&M team. You see them as a 4. So, some of these matchups could occur again. We'll see. Memphis as a 5, Penny Hardaway's best team, I would argue. BYU off to a great start under Mark Pote, undefeated as a 6. James Madison, undefeated, ranked 22 in the AP poll. They won at Michigan State, still winning, undefeated, best team in the Sun Belt. Virginia, solid win, in the SEC, ACC challenge to where the Cavaliers now are an 8 seed. They've been a little shaky. Other side, here you've got Hawaii. I'm a big fan of Ron Gano, undefeated. Saw them play Northern Arizona when I was out there for the Maui Invitational. Really like this Hawaii team. I think they're going to be right there with Long Beach, Santa Barbara, and I wouldn't discount Irvine to potentially get into the NCAA tournament the first time since 2016. Big game against Utah on the road in Salt Lake. So it got them going as a 13 against A&M. Dayton, even though George Washington right now is the best team technically in the A-10, I still think Dayton's going to ultimately win the league. They're right there. They've played a better schedule. That would be a really good matchup with Memphis. How about a 6-11 Florida? Todd Golden, under the radar right now. He's got a pretty good team that's playing really well. Look at this. James Madison against Nebraska. Okay. Someone asked if I'm on the Rutgers bus. Yes. I'm on this Nebraska bus too, by the way. I love this Nebraska team. Keisei Tominaga. I think Nebraska, undefeated at this point. I'll be there on December 10th. They got a big game against Michigan State. Really significant. I think that's going to be a game changer for them. But they also are going to host Creighton, and they're going to play Kansas State. So we're going to know a lot about Nebraska before the New Year's. I think they have a legit shot to be in the top 6 in the Big Ten, without a doubt. And then San Diego State. They're going to climb from a 9. No question. Jaden Ledee has been one of the best players. He's been a first-team All-American, okay? I'm going to start that campaign right now. He's been a first-team All-American, and he better be if he stays the way he's playing now, he better be in that first team. Without question, okay? He is one of the 5 best players in the country right now. Now, it's 1 month in. We'll see. So I think the 9 for San Diego State's that's not going to hold. They're going to go up. Watch them go up. So overall, Deacon's just razzing me. Never forget he picked Arizona, Purdue, Indiana, UCLA for his Final Four last year. Oh, this guy's a fool. Who is this clown? Okay. First of all, Arizona upset. Purdue upset. Did they have 2 of the best rosters last season? Yes. UCLA Jaime Jaquez, is he not playing for the Miami Heat? Did they not have a great roster? Yes. Indiana, Trace Jackson Davis, he's playing for Golden State. Have you not seen that? So it wasn't crazy to pick those 4 schools. All right. Is Brooklyn the Sweet 16 this year, or is it a region for the 64 and 62? It's a region, Jake Johnson. It feeds into, well, feeding a couple of, brackets, but you could definitely see UConn going Brooklyn to Boston, which would be quite a path back to the Final Four if that were to happen. So let's take a couple other quick questions here. Do I think Duke's going to get better as the season goes along? Yes. Okay, they lost to Arkansas without Tremont Mack. Bud Walton was 20,000, crazy environment. Duke had never played there. It's a true road game. Cool. A&M might be too high. Love Wade Taylor, but too high. Okay, fine. Is JMU legit? So far, yes. They can only probably, the margin for error is still thin though. They don't really have any other great games the rest of the way. So they're going to have to win the Sun Belt, losing only probably 2 games. If that happens, they'll get in, and this, regardless of what happens in the conference tournament, and they'll be 2 bids. So, yeah, I think they're definitely a team that is legit. All right. So, full bracket, give you a sense. Go to March Madness, MBB on our social channels. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and Instagram, and NCAA.com. And I go into a little more detail on NCAA.com. All right, so there you see the full breadth of it, okay? This is 1 month in. It's going to change dramatically, but this gives you a sense of where we are at this point, this snapshot in time. So this is through Wednesday's games, through the ACC-SEC Challenge, which I thought was great. Home and homes, love it. Hope more of those kinds of events occur. All right, everyone. Appreciate your time. Remember, every Monday on this Bleacher Report app, all your channels, we break down the AP Top 25. So Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern, I will rejoin you on this platform, and we will do the bracket probably monthly. Also, we're going to have on December 15th a breakdown of the top 10 players at that moment in time in men's college basketball. And by the way, AP Top 25, barring a flop this weekend, but even that, I think they play Pitt. Come on, rank Clemson. Rank Clemson. They won at Alabama. They won the Asheville tournament. I don't get it. Rank Clemson. All right? Appreciate everyone. Enjoy the rest of this week. Be safe, everyone. Appreciate it.